Chapter 8 Godhand. Sparkles of electrical energy crackle around Storm's legs as he prepares to overwhelm his opponents with his enhanced speed. Just as he pushes off, Null shuts down the GX parasite in his blood, causing the teen to fall flat on his face. Null begins to laugh. None of your abilities are going to work against us. I have honed my own powers to specifically target opposing parasites and render them temporarily useless. Adder moves in, grabbing Storm by the hair and pulling him off the ground. Unlike your group, we mesh together well as a team. Null immobilizes an opponent, while I deliver the kill. We are very effective. Storm releases a field of electrical discharge from his body in a pulse, knocking Adder back. 10 seconds. He shut my parasite down for 10 seconds. Now I just need to figure out if he needs any time to charge in between. Null throws up a hand, incapacitating Storm's parasitic abilities. Adder attacks from behind, locking the teen in a full Nelson hold and restraining his arms. Adder kicks the back of his knees, lowering him down. We've played enough, Adder growls. It's time for you to die. Storm throws his head back into Adder's face, staggering him. Null brings a hand up to shut down Storm's parasite, but the teen is not utilizing his parasite to attack. Storm rushes Null, driving a fist into his nose. Blood sprays from the fighter's busted nose and he stumbles back a step, just before Storm drops low and sweeps his legs out from underneath him. Adder attacks from behind, but with Null down, Storm's body begins to crackle with electrical energy. Sparkles of energy ripple from the fighter's eyes and down the length of his arms as he pivots and floods his attacker with a full jolt of electricity. Adder sails backward, his own body now dancing with sparks. Null moans, crawling to his feet. Bastard, he growls, holding his bleeding nose. Emotions heightened. Their parasite in Null's blood activates further, causing his face to become more reptilian in appearance. You put too much work into your ability and slacked on developing your base form, Storm says, hopping in place. The teen runs at Null, who again shuts down his parasite. Storm doesn't slow, instead running circles around his opponent. Null's eyes cannot keep track of Storm's movements as he races past him again and again. Do you think I got this far relying on a single technique? Null asks. I haven't even shown you a fraction of what I'm capable of. Triggering his GX parasite into mutation, Null's skin becomes covered with faint scales, and his body grows bulkier. In this mutation, Null is able to generate a field of energy around his body that continuously shuts down other GX parasites, without having to actively trigger the ability. Storm attacks from the left with a punch, but Null catches his fist in the air before striking him square in the face. Storm is thrown back, blood trailing from his own nose. Who needs a strong base form when your mutated state is far superior? Null asks, mocking Storm's earlier claims. Storm gets back on his feet and places a finger on the side of his nose before blowing out some blood from his nostrils. Not bad, Storm admits. But I've been punched harder by guys without any alien parasites in their blood. Null growls in anger but does not attack. The fighter understands that his role is one more for support. He knows that it'll fall upon Adder to eliminate someone of Storm's skill. I'm gonna pay you back for that cheap shot, you piece of shit, Adder growls. Storm catches sight of Peril and Bulldog at the edge of his vision, still battling fiercely. He also notices that Adder's eyes and fangs are still semi-transformed. Even at this stage, Null's power has a range. I need to figure out how large that range is, and I'll be able to take him out in one go. Adder takes a few steps forward but does not attack, instead slowly circling his opponent. He knows the range of his partner's ability. He's making an active effort to stay just beyond that perimeter. If I want to stand a chance, I'll have to stick close to Adder. Storm moves towards Adder, but both he and Null move in unison to keep the distances between them equal. It's obvious that the two of them have extensively practiced their coordination many times and are incredibly in sync as a duo. The three fighters repeat the stance across the area, waiting for the first of them to make a mistake. Bulldog connects with a right hook, jarring the smaller Peril badly. The youth staggers, his head swimming with temporary confusion. He manages to shake it off quickly, retaliating with a rising left of his own. Bulldog takes the shot in stride, barely even noticing. Peril leaps back angered. The youth charges his opponent in an emotional flurry of fast punches, but Bulldog is able to block each while only backstepping slightly. This only infuriates Peril more, causing him to become reckless, and Bulldog seizes the change, catching the boy with a knee to the stomach, followed by a hard right hook. Peril bounces off the ground and skids across the concrete several yards. "You may have more raw potential, but you lack experience, kid," Bulldog says. "You've gotten lucky so far, but you can only do so much on talent alone." "Shut up," Peril growls, struggling to push himself to his feet. "What hurts more?" Bulldog laughs. "The truth or my punches?" Peril screams in fury, leaping at Bulldog. The more experienced fighter knocks him back to the ground with a swift kick. The youth hits the pavement and rolls back to his feet, immediately springing towards Bulldog with a kick of his own. Bulldog catches Peril's ankle and swings him around into a clothesline across the throat. Peril drops to the ground, gasping for air. "Are you so stubborn that you cannot see the immeasurable gap between us? I'm not even in my fully transformed state, and I'm making you look completely incapable of fighting back," Bulldog says. Peril crawls to his feet, blood drooling from the corners of his mouth. "I'm not drawing on my parasite at all." Bulldog begins to laugh. "Do you really think that you can bridge the distance between us just by transforming once? I'd like to see that." Closing his eyes, Peril attempts to calm himself and draw upon the energy created by the GX parasite, rather than his own natural production. An aura-like white fire briefly cyclones around the youth before abruptly vanishing. Peril opens his eyes, revealing they are now reptilian in appearance. "That's it?" Bulldog asks, not impressed. "You're even less transformed than I am." An invisible force rushes out from Peril's eyes, slamming into Bulldog and pushing him back several steps. As the man attempts to figure out what has happened, Peril's already at his side with a hard right hook. The blow rocks Bulldog, making him dizzy. Before he can respond, the man is hit by a dazzling combo of body punches, followed by an uppercut to the chin. Bulldog is knocked to his back, groaning in pain and disorientation. He increased his speed so much, Bulldog thinks, rubbing his jaw as he stands back up. He focused his energy not on transformation, but instead enhancing his normal body. No longer arrogant and talking trash, Peril watches his opponent carefully, studying his every movement. He's like an entirely different fighter now, Bulldog thinks. I'm going to have to fully transform just to surpass his current state. If I don't take him out quickly, he'll just push himself into complete transformation, and I won't stand a chance. Bulldog forces the GX parasite in his blood to undergo complete mutation, circulating increased metabolic energy throughout his body. The warrior's size nearly doubles, and dark reptilian scales manifest all over his flesh, like armor plating. Sharp, horn-like protuberances emerge from his jaw, and his mouth enlarges, many times over, to accommodate the two added rows of needle-like teeth. Peril leaps at Bulldog, but has to twist in evasion as the man throws a punch with so much force that a shockwave ripples through the air from his fist. Peril lands and immediately springs back at his opponent, just as he throws another punch at the spot he was just standing. The pavement splinters from the shockwave, and the ground sinks in several inches. Bulldog punches again and again, Peril narrowly avoiding each emitted shockwave. The youth is unable to get in close enough to strike, being kept in constant motion. While he has a slight edge in speed, the difference is not enough for Peril to evade and successfully counter before the more experienced fighter is able to launch another attack. Storm continues chasing Adder in an attempt to take him out, but Null keeps him within range, shutting down his parasite's activation. From out of nowhere, Flex appears with a kick that sends Adder crashing into Null. The two fighters collide, rendering both of their abilities out of commission for a brief window. Seizing the moment, Storm throws both arms out and releases nearly all of his pent-up energy in a single discharge that drops the enemy fighters into unconsciousness. "Thanks," Storm says out of breath. "I wasn't expecting you'd join us." Flex shrugs. "I guess I kinda owe it to that Brian kid to get him out of this mess." She looks over at the battle still in progress. Peril's holding his own pretty well. Khan chose him for his abilities and his ruthlessness over many other, more experienced candidates to assist Rapture and Clavemont, Storm explains. Flex tenses at hearing the name of that town again. Storm sees her emotional reaction and has to say something more to distract her. Peril had nothing to do with the abduction of Clavemont's populace. Rapture and Peril worked with the crew to keep the Virtual and Ymura out of the way. "Everyone played their role," Flex growls, "and someday even Peril will have to pay for those sins." The Whitecoats begin to move back into the building, with Mr. E and Tyrell as their prisoners. "We can leave Bulldog to Peril. Our job is to get the Virtual and break him out of this place," Storm says. "Are you sure about helping us?" Flex nods. "How could I be loyal to the people who kidnapped, experimented on, and even killed members of my family? Kids I grew up with, old neighbors, my cousin Lisa. Khan and his allies took them all away. I didn't realize you were from Clavemont." "I'm not. My cousin Lisa and her family live there. I used to visit her when I was younger. I'm a few years older than Lisa, and she always looked up to me like a big sister." As they move to follow the Whitecoats, the GX warrior known as Blaster intercepts their path. "I see that you've switched sides again," Blaster says, glaring at Flex. "I guess I should have expected as much. Some of us voiced our concerns that any successes from Clavemont can't be trusted. Anyone who did not receive the GX parasite of their own free will was to be viewed with suspicion." "Smart strategy," Storm says, electrical energy crackling from his fists. "Too bad the higher-ups didn't share your viewpoint." Blaster laughs. "That's why my team and I bailed from that sinking ship. We complete our job and move on to the next one, with nothing tying us down or obligating us to stay. Once we're finished with providing additional security to the hospital, we'll leave this city." Flex and Storm both slip into light fighting stances. "We'll make sure that this mission is your last," Storm says. Blaster snaps his fingers, causing an explosion in the air directly in front of Flex and Storm, knocking them back. "I can collide the molecules in the air to create explosions you can't even see. You're not going to get past me." "We'll need to work together to beat him," Storm says, wiping blood off his face. Flex crouches, blood running down her own forehead. "I already have a plan. Keep your energy around us in a static field, and try to minimize the damage from its explosions." Storm nods, blanketing them both with an electrical aura of static discharge. They dart at Blaster and attack, diverting in opposite directions to scissor him. Blaster grins, extending his arms to the sides and snapping his fingers. Explosions erupt in the air near Flex and Storm, causing them to roll in evasion. The added cushion of Storm's static aura gives them both just enough time to successfully dodge. "It worked," Storm whispers. "You're onto something here." Flex nods. "Just keep moving. If he gets a direct hit on us with one of those explosions, it'll do serious damage, buffer or not." Blaster grins, raising both of his hands up into position to snap his fingers. "Psst, psst, psst, psst. I hear you whispering strategies over there, but nothing you do is going to be enough to save you from me. All I need is one hit and boom!" He begins to laugh. "The doctor is going to have to hire outside help to clean up all the bloody pieces of you they're about to be splattered about." In the cafeteria, the PIA agents continue to hold their ground against the difficult-to-kill whitecoats. Short of a shotgun blast to the face, the enhanced hospital workers are able to regenerate any injury rapidly. Ammo running low, Callahan begins to fear for his team's likelihood of success. If something drastic isn't done soon, they'll all be killed. "Listen up," Callahan says, resolve hardening his tone. "I'm going to draw all of their attention towards me. When I do this, the rest of you push through the doors and complete the mission. You must see this through to the end. The doctor must be taken out and the hospital must fall." "Sir," Lachey whispers. "There's no time for that," Callahan growls. "Harden your hearts and do your damn jobs." A blur of movement flashes through the cafeteria, evading bullets from both sides with relative ease. The metallic hum of steel cutting through the air whirs as a sword slices down into the skull of a whitecoat. Alyssa pivots, whipping her blade across and cleaving off half of the enhanced warrior's head. Bernat rushes past his companion, driving his own sword straight into the chest of another whitecoat, and rips it upward. The whitecoat is split in half, blood spraying in all directions. A third whitecoat raises his gun towards the monster hunters, but Alyssa pivots and severs his arm quickly before slashing her blade across his throat, resulting in decapitation. The agents stare forward in shock as another whitecoat drops to his knees, head rolling to the side. Did they really just wipe out those guys in seconds with swords? After we've been filling them with bullet holes for what seems like an hour? Lachey asks. Alyssa flings the blood off her sword and uses one of the bodies to wipe the blade clean. "One of the many enchantments of my Umel Klinok is Raspad. Raspad prevents the regeneration of any flesh it cuts. The enemies will stay down for good this time." "You saved our asses," Callahan says. "Especially mine. I was just about to sacrifice myself to get the others just one room further into the facility." "That would have been pointless," Alyssa says. "We came through that room first and encountered twice as many of those Chimera men as than what we faced here." "Chimera men?" Lachey whispers, confused. "They're not normal humans," Bernat explains. "There are body parts of at least 10 different creatures woven into their bodies." "That would explain why they're so strong and hard to kill," Callahan says. "None of their bodies are uniform," Alyssa continues. "Some have parts belonging to creatures that others do not. One creature that they all smell of is the Caladrius." "And that is?" Callahan asks. "That NHE has never come up before in any of our reports." "It is a winged beast with powerful regenerative abilities. The blood of a Caladrius can cure any illness and repair any wound that has not completely destroyed the brain or heart, Alyssa says. How many more of those enhanced fighters are left in the building? Lachey asks. 11 that I can sense. Alyssa answers quickly, remaining ever alert. The young woman's eyes dart back and forth as she is constantly scanning the room for threats. Most of the civilian staff have already evacuated. What about the doctor? Callahan asks. I believe he has already gone from this building. Callahan is upset, but he tries to remain calm. We continue our search. At the very least, we're making this facility unusable to the doctor ever again. Agents Orlandi and Vosk hide behind an ambulance, watching quietly as a group of whitecoats exit the hospital, pushing several carts of covered materials. The agents cannot see what's being transported, as the hospital staff load the carts into the back of a different ambulance. Callahan, do you copy? Orlandi asks. Go ahead for Callahan, the team leader says. Good to hear you're still alive. We've had a rough time of it here. Did you run into any of those enhanced mercenaries downstairs? We have a visual on a group of approximately 10 individuals attempting to leave via ambulance with unknown boxes of property. Do we engage? Negative, do not engage. These guys are bullet sponges. The two of you will not be able to take them on. Pursue from a distance and do not get spotted. Contact me again when you have a positive ID on their destination. Clear, watch and follow only. Gator covers the apartment's entrance with Hale and Bradshaw as Jake runs back inside to retrieve Claire. What's going on out there? Claire asks, scared. I'll explain on our way out, but we need to hurry. My uncle is outside keeping the mercenaries off our backs for the time being, Jake says. Your uncle? Claire becomes very confused. What's going on? He's a soldier, and his team is going to help us rid this city of Hui and its followers. Outside, the crowds of people run in every direction, panicked by the explosions near the hospital and the firefight in the streets between the Silver Fox agents and Chigo's mercenary team. The head priest walks through the crowds as they run past. Means notices the large man out of place, walking down the street completely calm. Cruzon senses he's being watched and slowly raises a hand, pointing his index finger in the distance toward the Silver Fox's resident sniper. I swear it looks like he's pointing at me, Means thinks, a cold chill running through his body. But that would be impossible. No one can see that far without some kind of equipment. He returns to looking through his scope just as the top floors of his building erupt in a massive inferno. Smoke rolls off the head priest's index finger as the building bursts into flames and begins to collapse violently. Means! Gator shouts, watching in horror. It all happens so quickly that he's unable to do anything to prevent the attack. Cruzon turns, swinging his arm around so that his index finger is less than an inch from Gator's forehead. Gator's eyes widen in terrible realization, just as the head priest's finger begins to glow brightly. How the hell did he move so fast? He closed the distance between us in an instant, Gator thinks, instinctively diving for cover just before a brilliant beam of energy erupts from Cruzon's finger and explodes into a building beyond. Your reflexes are not normal, Cruzon says as Gator rolls to his feet, immediately drawing his K-bar knife from its sheath. Bradshaw and Hale begin to circle the enemy from the sides. The head priest grins. Even with superior numbers, you are no threat to me. The power I have been blessed with is beyond the comprehension of you tiny men. Jake tackles Claire to the floor right as a beam of concentrated energy pierces the building, As the dust settles, Jake sits up to scan for the source of the attack. He hears footsteps, slow and heavy. Whoever approaches is not concerned at all with anything. He's completely confident in his own strength and ability. The body of the Silver Fox agent Bradshaw is tossed through the hole in the wall, his head twisted around in a gruesome display. What the hell? Jake thinks, fear rising in him uncontrollably. What is this aura I'm sensing? It's choking me. It's colder and darker than the deepest pits of the ocean. The girl is coming with me, Yamura, Cruzon says, emotionless. Who are you? Jake whispers, trembling and sweating profusely. Every instinct is telling him to run away and never stop to look back. My name is of no importance. I am quite sure that you are aware of what truly matters right now. His power is too immense, Jake thinks, terrified. We can't beat this guy. We wouldn't last a minute against him. What are you doing? Yamura growls, annoyed. It is not like you to give up so easily. Shall I take control? Jake nods immediately. Yamura finds it troubling that the teen does not hesitate at all to give up control of his body. I don't know why, but I can't will my body to move. You are sensing the murderous intent of a powerful Sakari warrior. This is the aura of one who has killed thousands. Were you ever to sense me in my own body at full strength, you would feel something similar. Does that mean this guy is Hui? Were we wrong? Was it never going to be Claire's brother? I thought they needed to sacrifice her to complete the transfer ritual. The man before us is not Hui, but he does have Hui's energy. I would guess that he has bestowed upon this man a large portion of his strength, for the sole purpose of killing us. Get out of there, kid, Hale shouts, stumbling into the apartment with his gun fixed on the head priest. Hale's right arm hangs lifelessly to the side, and he's covered head to toe in blood and severe burns and lacerations. Cruzon turns, assessing the threat. You should have been unable to survive my attacks. You have no higher abilities. Are you just too stubborn to die? Sounds about right, Hale coughs. The head priest takes a single step, somehow covering the distance between them, and ending up behind the soldier. Blood sprays out from Hale's back, and he slowly falls forward. How? Hale thinks as his mind slips into thick darkness. How did he move so fast? Claire! Jake screams, his eyes turning deep red as Yamura begins to take over. Get out of here now! What about you? Claire cries out, worried about his safety more than her own. I'll buy you as much time as I can, but you have to leave. You have to run away from here and live at all costs. You can't die. You hear me? No matter what, you have to live. Jake screams, his hair becoming oily black and standing on end. Claire nods, tears filling her eyes. She dashes over to the fire escape. Don't you die either. It doesn't matter how far she runs. I will catch up with her, Cruzon says. Yamura fully takes control. My host has declared the girl under his protection, and I shall not allow the dishonor of failure to befall us. The great Yamura protecting humans. The stories I heard about you portrayed you in a much different light. The black flame aura erupts around Yamura in a violent cyclone. Yes, I believe those stories paint a low estimate of my strength. The head priest grabs Yamura by the throat, seemingly teleporting to him instantly. What? How did he reach me? I never even saw him move. Lord Hui has nothing to fear from you, Cruzon says. Even me, with only a fraction of his great power, is too much for you. Yamura screams, flaring out his aura and attempting to force the head priest's fingers apart. Cruzon's grip instead tightens, making Yamura gasp for air. I never knew how much of Inyana's power was being held back by your mother, Yamura says, with no one to hold him back. Even a portion of Hui's strength is more than we can handle. You are right. We cannot win this fight. Damn it, Jake curses. Did I really sound that pathetic? You're the great General Yamura. You're stronger than Hui. You can beat this guy. He's nothing more than a shadow of Hui. Yamura again screams, the black flame radiating outward. The Sakari thrusts the hand forward, driving a claw deep into the head priest's left eye. Cruzon shouts out in pain, hurling Yamura through a wall. Yamura crashes into the kitchen of another apartment, his back indenting the refrigerator. Yamura gasps for air. Bruises shaped like fingers decorate his neck. He begins to cough, rolling to his hands and knees, and coughing up blood. From nearby, a faint hissing sound catches Jake's attention. I was going to kill you quickly, the head priest growls, holding his bleeding eye. But now I'm going to make you suffer. Switch, Jake says. Quickly, I have an idea. Yamura relinquishes control to Jake and the teen immediately crawls towards the kitchen stove. Being gas-operated, the stove becomes a dangerous combustion hazard, if damaged in the presence of flames. Jake turns on all of the range burners as the hiss of a severed gas line continues to sing to his ears. The head priest enters the kitchen to see Jake standing, braced against a doorway. Yamura's power seems to have already vanished from you. My guess is that you are only seconds from unconsciousness. And my guess is that you've never seen the PSA about detecting gas leaks, Jake says. Cruzon's attention shifts towards the stove as the pang of concern rises from deep within. Jake switches back to Yamura and throws himself into the bathroom behind him, just as he releases a burst of the black flame towards the stove. The explosion is fierce, and the concussion radiates in a circle in all directions. Landing in the bathtub, Yamura is shielded from the blast, but the floor gives out and collapses. The tub drops down 2 floors and the remainder of the building falls all around him. The head priest rises from the ruins, lifting several large slabs of concrete off his body. That nearly killed me, he whispers to himself in disbelief. I can no longer sense him. He must have died in the explosion meant to eliminate me. It was a risky maneuver, but had it played out in his favor, it would have been worth it. He looks around, trying to locate Claire. The girl is too weak to find by her aura. I will have to catch her the old-fashioned way. Hey, buddy, are you all right? A bystander shouts. The man is shocked to see the head priest has nothing more than a few cuts and bruises after such a massive building collapse. Cruzon ignores the man, still attempting to scan the area for Claire. Without being able to sense the girl's weak aura, he hopes that she has lingered around the scene to see what fate has befallen her protector. I do not sense her anywhere around. Where would she run to for safety after her home was destroyed? Her brother did not speak of any friends or other family that she would associate with. As Cruzon departs to retrieve his primary objective, and the various forces of Pia and Storm's group lay siege on the hospital, Jake and Yamura are left unconscious for 3.5 hours. All of the battles being waged across the city will conclude, without them being able to participate further. Hui will have the blood of his potential Veshel's sister as a sacrifice, and no one will be around to save her. Cruzon has fulfilled his duty to his lord, and removed the threat posed to Hui's revival. Without Yamura to stop him, Hui will be able to successfully put his spirit into the body of Craig Delgado, and wreak havoc on the human world once again.